Hey everyone, I have a really important message that I wanted to share with everyone because I feel like it's so important for women and young people, and even just for all of us as we're out living our lives and doing things, that we're watching for each other, watching out for each other, because I never in a million years ever thought that this would happen to me. So I wanted to share my experience with you. So hopefully, if it does happen to you, you can either avoid it, or if you're unable to avoid it, you know what the next steps are to protect yourself and to make sure that you get home safe. But I was in Florida.
Welcome to Pegasus versus the World, where we take on challenges, comedy, trending topics, and some travel.
City boy! City boy!
All right, this one was important to me to cover. This is Kristen. So Kristen Ludlow is the channel, or this is her TikTok. If you want to go support her or go, leave a comment and talk to her about this story. This is titled, I wanted to share my story about getting drugged in a Walmart and what I did to protect myself, to empower other women and young people. Know what to look for and know what to do if you are ever in this situation. We all need to look out for each other. God bless you all. So, this is a very important story, and we're just going to start it off like that. And let's just get into it, and we can discuss. We'll discuss it. Recently, I think it was about 2 months ago, this dude was following my wife around in a King Supers, which is a Kroger's for people who aren't in the Colorado region. And she did the right thing, and I'm very proud of her for what she did, even though, sometimes things could be looked at as, oh, we'll talk about it during this. Let's listen to this lady's story, but this is important for women and kids. So here we go. Let's hear her out.
Either avoid it, or if you're unable to avoid it, you know what the next steps are to protect yourself and to make sure that you get home safe. But I was in Florida, and I was shopping for a table at Walmart, and a young woman approached me and said she was a missionary from Brazil and asked if she could pray with me. And we had some conversation, and she turned her backpack around and unzipped it and pulled out these two books and said, "Hey, I have these for you." And she handed them to me. And my reflex was to take them. When someone hands you something, you just take it. And I'm looking at these books, and they were wrapped in a plastic wrapper that...
So as a hustler, this is what people who hustle do. They put the product in your hand. Once you're holding it, it's really hard to get back, and they start trying to push the sell. This is really common in hustle culture when you're trying to sell products. You're a street vendor and you're trying to sell things. It's a tactic, but you guys got to hear how this played out for her. This is really wild.
Was kind of worn and a little cloudy looking, and I'm looking at these books, and they were wrapped in a plastic wrapper that was kind of worn and a little cloudy looking. And I'm looking at these two books wondering what is going on, and she was telling me that I could buy the two books from her for $20. And once I realized she was trying to ask me to buy the books, I said, "Oh, no, thank you. I don't need these, but thank you." And I handed them back to her, and she took them back and stuck them in her backpack, zipped it up, and said, "Okay, thank you," and walked away. And I thought, wow, that...
Okay, notice how she said that. I don't know if that has anything to do. She said she took it, and she went like this and made it seem like she took the book back like this. That seemed interesting.
It's a strange thing to happen. And I started walking toward where to check out, and within less than a minute, I'd say 30 seconds to a minute, all of a sudden, boom, I started getting very dizzy. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm so dizzy. I'm gonna really quickly get this table. I'm not gonna shop for anything else. I'm gonna go to my car to try to compose myself. And as I was walking out to the register, I looked down an aisle, and I saw her down the aisle texting very nervously. And at that point, I started getting more and more dizzy. And then I realized, oh my goodness, I think I've been drugged. There must have been something on those books that she handed me that I'm now feeling. And I've been an athlete and had multiple surgeries, and so I know what it feels like when you take a painkiller, something to help with the pain. And it felt like I took 20 painkillers all at one time. I was so disoriented and dizzy and just had a hard time composing myself. And so once I realized that I had been drugged, I wondered if she was texting maybe the people that she was working with and letting them know what I looked like, so they would know who she had given the books to, so they could be on the lookout. I'm assuming they were trying to traffic somebody. That's what they were there for. And so at that point, I heard clear as day. I just feel like God gave me clear instructions, and I was told, go to where there are a lot of people, stay around a lot of people, because my instinct was to go to my car and to isolate or go to the bathroom. But no, I needed to be around where there were a lot of people. So I kept walking, and I saw the pharmacy to my right, and there was a bench at the pharmacy.
This is crazy, you guys. And this stuff does happen in real time. It happens all over the world too. But this story is in America, in Florida. I wanted to highlight something she was saying because my homie, y'all might have seen him on the channel. He has a reaction channel, Chris Calico, big Chris Calico, baby. But if you ever go to one of his concerts and a meet and greet, he's always wearing gloves, plastic gloves. And I remember, I mean, he's been wearing plastic gloves or rubber gloves before the pandemic. Like this, he's always worn them. And I remember asking him early in our careers, this is probably like '07, maybe '08. And I was like, why do you wear those gloves? And some of the subject matter that is, wrapped about with Tech Nine and them is, drugs, partying, doing this, that, and the other. And he said there was one time where someone put something on his hand or touched his hand with like, I believe it was a hallucinogen. I'm not going to say exactly what it was because YouTube gets weird when you start being super descriptive about this type of stuff. But they touched his hand, and what people don't realize, it could just take a drop of some of these things, and he was just like out of it. And ever since then, he wears rubber gloves at his meet and greets and all of that stuff because he's like, that's the last time that could happen. Like, I think he was able to perform, but like he was just done. The other thing is then people sometimes think you're a drug addict, like you were taking a drug and you just took too much. So there's a lot there. She's absolutely right about do not isolate, get around people. I want to hear more of her story, and then I'm going to tell you guys about something that happened to my wife while my wife was with my infant at a grocery store about 2 months ago, maybe 3 months, but yeah.
So I sat on the bench because I thought I was going to pass out. And then again, I heard more instructions. Let them know that you're alone. So I'm assuming so that someone didn't just walk up to me and say, oh, this is my girlfriend, and pretend like they knew me and walk me out of the store, and no one would even question that. So I went to the pharmacist and I let him know something had happened, and I let him know that I was alone. And he came over, he's like, are you okay? I said, no, I think I've been drugged. And so they had Narcan available in case I had any reaction to it, in case I had any trouble breathing or anything, which praise God I didn't. But they called security, and security came over, and it was very, very hard for me to talk. It was taking everything within me to like stay conscious and speak clearly. And I couldn't even remember what the girl looked like that I had just seen a couple minutes before. I just remembered she was shorter and had long black hair. I couldn't remember the clothes she was wearing, none of it. That's how disoriented I was. And I just wanted to share this story, not to scare people, but again, I never ever thought that this would happen to me. So I want you to know, if anybody ever tries to hand you anything, a book, a flyer, a business card, a candle, just anything, you do not have to take it. You can just say, oh no, thank you, I'm fine. You do not have to take it from them. Secondly, if you do end up touching something that might have chemicals or something on it that make you feel dizzy and you feel it hit you, your instinct is to isolate. It's to go hide. But you need to do the exact opposite. You need to be around a lot of people. Stay where there are a lot of people. Your instinct is to not make a scene and, keep to yourself until it passes. But you need to make a scene. You need to let people know that you're alone, that you don't know anybody else in that area or anybody else in that store where you are. Because I believe that those two decisions are why I'm still here today and why I'm okay. And they were unsuccessful in that. And I thank God that they chose me, because I had the instruction and I knew what to do and I knew where to go to be safe. And I'm so grateful for that. When it hit me, I knew what that feeling felt like because I had had so many surgeries before. And so I knew what was happening to me. And I think of just younger people that maybe don't know what that feels like would think, oh, I'm so dizzy, I'm going to go to my car. And you never know what's waiting for you around the corner. You never know what's waiting for you out in the parking lot when you're by yourself and you go out there. I mean, everything can happen so fast in an instant. Your whole life could change.
All right, so everything she's saying is valid. I'm going to tell you guys a story about something that happened to my wife, and it's not as extreme as this, but so I always have my head on a swivel. I'm very paranoid, always. You know, and I've talked about that on this channel. How like when I go to Europe, it's kind of interesting to not have to look for like not look around for like a shooting environment like gun stuff, but my head is still on a swivel because things just happen and humans are humans. Um, my wife was at King Supers, okay, and we're in a pretty good neighborhood. Nothing, we're not in the ghetto or anything like that. She's in King Supers, which is a brand of Kroger's for people in America, and she's just shopping. And what happens is, she noticed this person, and it was just like whatever. This person, okay, cool. But then the second time she was holding our infant, and our infant was smiling and waving at her. And this is what really made her look. She looked, and it's the same dude. And then he just kind of looks down and looks away. You know, he wasn't like, hi, little baby, like nothing like that. He just was being kind of awkward. Long story short, my wife was basically, she said he was following her throughout the store. And she started to get uncomfortable because she started to notice it. And there's two ways this could go. It could absolutely be somewhat of a coincidence, right? There's been times where I'm just in the store and you walk down the aisle and you keep seeing the same person or walk by them. That's a possibility. But he had these awkward mannerisms and he was, my wife's spider senses went off, right? Now, some people could say, oh, you're being a Karen or you're being a BI or you're being this, that, and the other. But my wife didn't say anything. She just went about, kept shopping, but she became more aware. And these are things I always tell her when she goes out with my kids and I'm not there. You need to just be looking, always just be aware. Just, it's okay to go on your instincts, even if people want to put you in a box and say you're this or you're that because, hey, you might have stereotyped something or profiled something. You are a woman with two female daughters that needs to be safe, and it's better to be safe than sorry. Long story short, she kept going through the grocery store, and this dude was just everywhere they were at some capacity and kind of like lurking, and she felt like she was being followed. When she got to the register, he had like followed closer to that area. And I don't remember because every time I talk about this story, she reignites different little subtle things that happened where I was like, damn, that is kind of wild. But essentially, he kind of disappeared when she was checking out. And she just kind of made a reference to the clerk. And long story short, super long story short, because I forget the weeds of it, she just went ahead and asked for a manager or a male. Because they said, oh, do you want this person to walk you out? And it was another female. And she was just like, could we have a male? And then they're like, oh, what's going on? And she just was like, hey, I just feel a little uncomfortable, da, 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 da. They had a male manager walk her to her car, get everything loaded up, get the child in the car. She thanked them so much. And the dude was super cool, which I'm frustrated that I wasn't there, But anyways, she gets in her car. And as she's leaving, she sees the dude drive right past her. I don't know what was going on. She's calling me in the car and I'm like, yo, where are you? I'm coming, but she's like, I'm already close to home. I'm like, make sure no one's following you, take a few different routes home, make sure no one is following you, da, 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 da. And that's just how it ended. Now, could this have been a random occurrence? Technically, yes, absolutely. There's so many times I've been in a grocery store and I walk down the same aisle as a woman or a man, and you just start to, you're like, dang, I keep walking past. And you even kind of give them more space because you're like, yo, this feels kind of awkward. I'm not trying to, shop around you purposely, bro. Like, my bad. Like, it's just like I'm so aware that's how I'll be. And then you go to the parking lot, it's like, damn, they parked over there. This is kind of crazy. That happens. That's what could have happened. That's fine if that happened. I don't know what happened. But my wife did the right thing. She took the precaution for herself and the kiddos just to be safe. Some people be way too nice, and that's how you end up getting caught up. Cause I'm a cool cat. Like, they trying to sell you Girl Scout cookies, and like I remember going to the record store. The hustlers will put the CD in your hand. Once you're holding the CD in your hand, there's a more likelihood of you just being like, yeah, man, here's 5. I'm gonna support, blah blah blah. That's what hustlers do. But you have to be aware that there's other things going on in real time with other factions of society. Um, and it's unfortunate this type of stuff is even happening in America, because I don't think it was maybe this prevalent, but maybe it was prevalent and social media is able to highlight it. I don't know. Essentially, this woman's story is to be careful, especially if you're a woman or a child, because people that do things like this are predatorial. So their predators always find the weakest. Even in the jungle, they're never hunting like the biggest, baddest, whatever, because I think it's like the female lion that hunts. I don't know, but they're not hunting the biggest, baddest gazelle or the strongest, whatever. Like, they go for the young and the weak and the slow, you know? So they're not gonna go after like a dude who's just like looks like he can handle himself, you know. So be careful out there. I think this is just a reminder of that. I think this is important for me to highlight stuff like this on the platform. Um, listen to those things she said. When my wife went and said, "Hey, I would like a male manager or whoever to walk me out to my car if that's okay," that's fine. That's what you should do. And in her situation, she did exactly what she was supposed to do. So I think that's important. I wanted to cover that here before I get the rest of my video started today. So let me know what you guys think, and have you ever encountered anything like this? Um, the world is an interesting place. Look out for yourself and look out for others.
City boy, city boy.